Hello, welcome to World Talks from the Arctic Frontiers Conference in Tromsø, Norway. I'm Adam Jasser. The motto of the conference is the Arctic at the turn of the tide, signifying a shift from regional cooperation to geopolitical rivalry. To discuss the implications of the sea change, I'm joined now by Nils Kristian Nilsen of the Northern Norway, which is a public entity representing the region in the EU capital, Brussels. Nils, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, until recently, climate change, community affairs, cooperation, these were the topics discussed here for 20 years, if I understand. This year, security, hard power.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's rather natural that it become like this. If you see what's happening in first the European Parliament, taking initiative for a resolution based on security and preparedness. And you could say the big interest drivers when it comes to the Arctic, when you look at Europe, is climate and environment on one side, and it's geopolitics and security on the other, while we work in the middle to be able to create sustainable societies in the north. And of course, when you see what's happening gradually, little by little, since Russia invaded Crimea, and then in 2022 went to war against Ukraine, and then you get a new establishment in the US who is now starting to threat their best friends in Europe. Of course, the tense situation is marking us to a large degree.
But it took the crisis over Greenland to really focus everybody's attention.
Yeah, because I do believe that no one did expect this to go that far. That a good ally that especially Norway have related on for decades to come and rescue us if something should happen. Now the situation is turned upside down, and of course you have Greenland, but you have Iceland in between, and what's going to happen to Svalbard? Is that into play right now? So so it's a huge amount of things who is on the pitch right now.
I'm glad you mentioned Svalbard, because I was going to ask you about this. According to some analysts, this is where the biggest potential risk or challenge is, and that Russia has presence there, there are hybrid activities there, and Norway is basically paralyzed to respond. So what are you going to do about this?
Well, you know, we are the nice guy. We don't want any conflict with anyone, but of course, when you see what's happening around Greenland, where the big power now just can, if they like to, just take it by power. Of course, Russia have had their presence at Svalbard, despite, you could say, the Svalbard treaties say that it's a Norwegian sovereignty there. It's a demilitarized zone. The Russians are, of course, bullying at Svalbard, as they do. And you might know that just as well in the case of Poland and the Baltic countries, that they have, among others, sent a Russian Orthodox priest is established in Svalbard. They are jamming airlines in the northernmost part of Norway, disrupting the internet connections and things like that. So they are pushing the limits all over just to see how we respond.
And how do you respond?
Yeah, exactly. And so far, we are sitting very still in the boat because we probably don't dare. We don't want to escalate things, and it's probably a policy we should start altering in Europe.
So Russia is pushing the envelope, and there is no pushback.
Yeah, you could say very shortly said.
Is this your message to whom? To the Norwegian government or to Europe? Who would you address with this message? NATO? I don't know.
Now we have to start standing up and say that pushing these limits, it's not acceptable. But of course, as long as we don't say anything to the Russians, they will start pushing, and they see it's no resistance. Then they push further, and they push further. So we are a bit afraid of the conflict that might arise, but we also have to remember that Europe, with the EU and European part of NATO, is much stronger than Russia is. So of course, this is more for, you could say, internal medicine for the Russians, the Russian regime, so they can say back home that we are the tough guys. We are bullying a bit because we are a superpower. So, but if you don't say anything, they keep on going, and that's the same with Svalbard. They do much of the same things there, but so far we don't do much.
So you, as an expert, as a person from the region who understands all this very well, what would it be, in your opinion, the right response right now, specifically? I don't know, more Navy in the area, some exercises. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, but also more direct sayings that this is not acceptable. We have, for example, Estonia experienced 3 Russian aircraft coming into their territory. How fast are we to put NATO planes on their wings just to get up there and say, this is not acceptable? And then we also have to use the words saying that this is not acceptable. And we should...
excuse me for saying this and for interrupting you, but Europe has been saying lots of things are unacceptable, but they happen anyway. So we live in an age of hard power. So is there some kind of proper reaction that you would recommend, apart from words?
No, having airplanes on the wings, having boats saying that we are here, we see what you are doing, don't push the limits any further. Because if they don't get any resistance, they will keep on pushing. So if I understand you correctly, you believe the current deterrence and the current response is still too weak? Yeah, we should be more loudly speaking when we talk to the Russians. But that's of course up to European politicians, Norwegian politicians, those who are in position of being heard.
Right. So. You also mentioned that, paradoxically, Russia might feel encouraged by what they was doing over Greenland. So saying we need it for security, we take it. So have you seen any evidence that the Russians are actually using this kind of argumentation to say, oh, we need greater access to Svalbard, or we need greater access to the Arctic in general?
Well, they have questioned the Svalbard Treaty. They have always questioned the Svalbard Treaty. And now they start, you could say, I told you about this Russian Orthodox priest. They start to, you could say, establish even more on Svalbard. They have had a presence there for many decades. So they are doing the same, but they haven't said anything loudly. But what Donald Trump is saying to Russia, you can do the same with your own neighboring countries. They also tell China that Taiwan is up for grab. This is they
haven't said that explicitly yet.
But indirectly.
But this is the message you're saying, that this could be interpreted.
Yeah, it can. And is there anyone who is willing to defend Svalbard, for example? It's Norwegian sovereignty, but it's the Svalbard Treaty who regulates this. You could say that everyone can establish some activity there, but
Poland has a research center there, if you will. But we're not sending priests there yet.
No.
Okay. As far as I know, at least. But going back to what you just said, do you think Norway should increase pressure to change that treaty, perhaps, to clarify the situation, or would that open just a can of worms and create more problems than solutions?
Well, I think Norway have been very clear on the interpretation of the Svalbard Treaty, and it said that it's Norwegian sovereignty. Everyone who wants to come there is welcome to have activities there. It's a demilitarized zone, no conflicts, things like that. So we have more the soft entrance into this Svalbard question, to say it very simple in a way. So I can't imagine Norway would push this any further or claiming that it's...
but in a sense, this treaty creates a vacuum. So can this continue, or...?
I think it's very much on who you confront this with. And of course, when it comes to Russia or one of our closest neighbors, not close in that sense, but we have a 200-kilometer border to Russia. And we have lived in peace. We are the only neighboring country who have never been in war with Russia. And especially up in the northernmost county of Norway, on the east part of that county, they have had a very good, friendly relationship for decades with, or you could say, throughout the history with the Russians. So being very tough against them, when we know that on the just 250 kilometers away from our borders, they have this atomic arsenal that is scary. It's not meant for Norway, but I don't think they're
basically saying caution is the order of the day.
I can't imagine Norway is going to be very tough on this. They will use the diplomatic way of talking about the Svalbard question.
I understand. We're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you one last question. Given all the stuff that is happening, the changing circumstances, should Norway revisit the question of EU membership?
Well, if you ask me, of course, it should be... Norway is a bit strange when it comes to this question. We had this voting when Sweden and Finland, our closest neighbors, entered into the EU in 1995 and the years before. But this discussion was ripping up some, you could say, big wounds, and it's still there. And we are not following very much or enough what's happening in the EU, even though it affects us to a large degree. We have the European Economic Area Agreement, so we are 2/3 a member of the EU, but we don't have any political voice or any voice at all. So most of the new laws and regulation that the EU...
They're compatible anyway.
Yes. We are,
so you're lawtakers without impact on what is happening.
But when you start discussing the EU, the question of independence is coming. We had just quit 400, we call it the dark years, in a union with Denmark. And then after the Napoleon War, we was handed over to Sweden. And after 90 years, we got our independence. So we are a rather young nation. And that also make the union notion is difficult for Norwegians. And we think very much about independence. And the discussion, even though EU is doing a lot of very good things for all the European countries who is with them together, find the good solutions on environment, on now competitiveness, security and defense is the new thing. It's about vaccine and medicine and things like that. We are not discussing that in Norway, and we should start doing that. Someone have spoken today about a double security net, and that's something who might start changing the minds of Norwegians, but I don't think we are ready now, but I should wish so.
Nils, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
This was World Talks. Thank you for watching.